All right, thank you, Sihara, for a great session on Power Pages. I've actually tried that and it works pretty well. All right, first and foremost, thank you to our sponsors and organizers for the event. And my session is about customer voice and supplier management. So a little bit introduction about myself. My name is Jimmy. I am tech lead Power Platform at Bane NOR. It's a government company in Norway, Oslo. I'm 15 years MCT, and I've done Microsoft consulting for 15 years. So feel free to connect with me on either LinkedIn or Twitter, and let's get started. So basically, for this session, I have some slides, and then I have a demo, and I will, when I'm done, I will then look up at the questions that you might have, and I think I have 45 minutes or something like that. All right, for the agenda is we're going to talk about using out-of-the-box solutions and tools in Microsoft 365 to solve a supplier chain management scenario. So this is a project I did for a client back in 2 years ago, and yeah, so this is a pretty cool case where we more or less just use out-of-the-box solutions. All right, so what is Customer Voice? So Customer Voice is a part of Dynamic 365 suite of products, and it was formerly known as Forms Pro. I will ask you about that later if anyone has used that before. And Customer Voice has some key features. You have branding options for the forms, very similar to what forms have today. We have branching, we have skip logic, we have display logic, which is a bit more powerful than what you have in forms. We can do personalized questions with personalization variables where you can basically use some predefined variables to provide a more user-friendly experience of the form. And of course, by using Power Automate, we can personalize the survey invitation. And during the process, users can save the progress. Well, the progress is automatically saved. So if you have a form with many questions, very often users cannot complete all of them at the same time. They have to maybe stop halfway or get more information before they continue with the submission. And the option to automatically save progress while they're doing it is really helpful. And every survey that you create in Customer Voice is grouped as a project. So meaning you can have a project with multiple surveys, so you can have multiple projects with multiple surveys again. So it's pretty powerful solution. And let's go on. So Customer Voice is a dynamic product, more or less. So everything that we have, forms, questions, and all thing, everything is saved in Dataverse. So when you create a project, you have to choose which Power Platform environment you will save your project to. And then inside of that environment, you will find all the entities, the tables that Customer Voice use. And that's where you will, if you want to use flow apps or other things, you need to connect to the environment and then the database in there. Now, licensing. Microsoft recently changed the licensing, so they will remove the standalone Customer Voice license. But everyone who have a dynamic license, more or less one of the categories, will have dynamic. Will have Customer Voice included. Otherwise, they will basically. I'm not sure how Microsoft is working this out, because back in the days we can buy Customer Voice as a separate license and then use it for whatever we wanted to. and now we need to buy a dynamic license. So it's pretty unsure for me. So maybe they will find we'll get some more information about that during this year. But it will work. It will work. Everything will work. So it's not a problem. It's just more like how much it's going to cost and that. So for the customer scenario I was talking about, we had a client with thousands of suppliers in their ERP system. The system was pretty heavy, meaning that you cannot make customizations in the ERP system. And the quality of the supplier then decreased over time because in the end they lose track of which one is actually approved to use in which case and which one is not. And then they have supply managers across regions, meaning that they have different supply chain managers working in different regions of the world, and they work differently. Documentation that's saved is not shared. It's kind of hard to collaborate across regions. And then the problem of the quality of the suppliers gets more and more difficult because everything is submitted as Word documents, and the supply managers save these Word documents in different locations, some in Teams, some in SharePoint, some in local file shares. And then the whole thing make it difficult to change when we get new government regulations. Basically, when we get new regulations on how we will manage our suppliers, the whole organization is really heavy. It's not that easily. We cannot easily change to comply to new regulations. That is a challenge. So what we did was we evaluate. Well, when I got into the project, they already did the evaluation process. So they come up with three. We come up with three. We split the problem in three different smaller parts. The first part is how do we make sure that internal users can request new suppliers, and if the request for the suppliers arrives, can the managers then easily approve or reject the request? Because sometimes users or the business request a new supplier, but the supplier already exists in the system, so you really don't need to do that. Otherwise, they request for a new supplier, and the supplier is actually blacklisted on the company. So that's kind of the first part of it. So you submit a request, we evaluate it, you approve, or you reject. So if the supply is approved, then we will send out notification to the supplier to submit data about themselves. And this is the process where the documents come in place. So normally, the supply chain managers just compile together a lot of Word documents with a lot of forms, and then they had it into attachment and send it to the supplier. And the supplier will fill it out, pack it into the supplier, and send it back an email. And that is a very requiring, time-consuming process. And now, when all the documents come in, and then we will start the evaluation process, and that's where look into the documents that you got, and then evaluate if this is a good supplier or not, and then process on. So, as I mentioned, the whole thing is built without using custom code. So basically, is forms, is SharePoint, is Microsoft Flow. And we have basically customer voice in dynamic, and we have the Dataverse. So a lot of flows running in the backend. Yep, that is the talking. Cool. Let's start showing you guys how this thing works. So as I mentioned, the first bit of the solution starts with the request for a new supplier. I would just zoom in a little bit. So the first part is that the employee or the business users will say that, okay, I need this new supplier for ABC, right? So they will say that the supplier company name is Jimmy ABC, ABC, and the contact as the supplier is Jimmy Hung, email address, and I need this supplier for Power Platform Bootcamp, right? So this is a very simple form for the end users to, you know, just to send in and then say, why do they need a new supplier? And it depends on your scenario. You will expand this form with other things, like, for example, if you have different regions, then you will choose, you add a column where they can choose which region this supplier belong to, and then different managers can be, you know, initiate and approve. So this will be sent in, and the form will then be saved in SharePoint in a supplier list here for supply managers to evaluate. So the item will be sent in here, and we will document, you know, everything, whatever column, whatever data you need to store, you can store it here. And that will start the approval request. Let's see if that come in here. And the reason is we need the approval process is just because, as I mentioned, we need to make sure that we are not asking a supplier to fill out documents if they already are approved or inside our systems, basically. Where is my supplier? All right, it should be arriving pretty soon. Oh, that is the other one, the approval. Oh, there you go. And the approval request that you will receive is Power Automate approval. This can be replied to using, you know, Outlook or Teams or any other apps that support the Power Automate approval. Cool. This is okay, and you will submit that. And while this processing, the flow will update the list with the current status. So I will say that, you know, the stage we are in at supply chain approval, and the status is approved. And that is the supply reason and the rest of the information. Now, when the supply chain managers approve this supply request, the system, we will then send out a request to our supplier to fill out, you know, their data. So it depends on, you know, what kind of information you are requesting, and it depends on what kind of information you will provide as a guidance to the users. So for this scenario, we request that they fill out the human rights form here, which is the, you know, the governmental requirements. And this is, as I mentioned, normally included in as attachments. And then if you have like other documentations, they can use the link to upload it to SharePoint here. So let's start with the customer voice forms. So I can just copy this form here. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to do that in incognito window, just to make sure that is completely anonymous. Right. So, and then this is where, you know, the name of the users that the form have here is included as a personalization value here. So this is the name of the contact person, and this is the name of the company that the form was submitted earlier. So let's go back in here. And this is the regular, this is very similar to Microsoft Forms. So you will see it pretty, it's not a difficult. So we can go back and say internationally, we have 1,000 users. Oh, that's too much. And then we don't have any website. We don't have anything. I'm not sure who is responsible for this. So what happens is that the users can then, do it halfway, close the form, and then send this to another person. If there's multiple users that you need to fill out the form, they can go back into it. And then if this works, as I mentioned, the progress is saved. You see that? So the number of employee, the internationally in Norway, blah, 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 everything is, progress is saved. So remember that the progress saving, it works only for 28 days. I believe it was 28. I will have to check, but it is a time limit on it. So let's say the person responsible is me. Email address is this one. So for this project, we had a requirement from legal that the supplier need to have to sign the form that I have submitted. They need to sign it. So we integrated this with DocuSign, which is the solution that the client had at the time. So the person that is a contact for the supplier is sometimes not the person that can sign a document on behalf of the company. So sometimes this is different. That's why we are requesting this information once more. And then this is the questions. And you can, this is real normal progress of that. And they submit it. And when they have done that, they can also, of course, upload additional documents like a certification or any other thing. And this technology I'm using for this is SharePoint's file request feature. So in SharePoint, we have a file request feature that you can enable, which enable users to upload a document to a folder that you define. Without having the permission to browse the hierarchy or see the site itself or anything. It's just completely anonymous for the end users. And as you can see, it's using OneDrive here, but it's actually SharePoint. The library is back in. And then they can go and upload some files. Let's go here. Group member templates. No, not that. Let's go and do that and open that. Add a file, open that. And they can add their names, right? So they can say that I'm the one uploading this and upload that. And they can upload more files. So that's up to them. Cool, that is done. So from this part, the supplier has done everything they need to be doing, and then they just await for the evaluation from the company. And then, oh, I'm sorry, it's just one last step, and that is the signature of the document. So as I mentioned, for this project, the client requests that the supplier need to sign the document. So I added a DocuSign process here. So the DocuSign process basically send out the form containing all the questions and answers that the supplier has supplied. And then you can just sign it here. So they can sign it, sign, and they just finish it. All right. And I'm using a DocuSign developer tenant, by the way, for these demo purposes. But but this should work with every other solutions that supports what should I say, that supports Power Automate. So I'm using Power Automate to orchestrate everything in the backend. So this is the signed document if you want to look at it. Oh, I need to sign in, so I don't need that. All right, so the process completes when the supplier has signed the document, and we will then update the process in the list in SharePoint with the signature received and the status completed, and then you can then start the internal evaluation of the supplier. So by this you mean because sometimes you have like hundreds of suppliers, a process going on, and then you really don't want to check it every day, to see if they have done what they're supposed to do. So we log the status, like we are waiting a signature, we receive the signature and all of that during the process. So you can see in the version history here. So we, for example, we waiting, we approve, we waiting for the supplier submission, supplier submitted, pending, waiting for signature received. So this is our way to document whatever's happening in the backend here. Now, when it's completed, you can of course go to the document folder where everything is. So this is where the survey is. You can see the survey responses that the supplier has submitted. It's converted to a Word file here. You can see the signature, the file, the PDF that they have signed is saved in here. And you can see everything else that they have, uploaded into the document. So the pictures that I added will be saved here. So that is how it works. Now, the evaluation process after it's completed varies very much on on your client and their scenario and their requirements. So I will not talk too much about that. But let me stop, break a little bit, and then see if there's any questions so far. Right, thank you. Yep. So I already talked about the differences, and cool. Now let me show you guys how the how customer voice works. So as I mentioned, there is a couple of features that customer voice have that forms basically don't. And as I check this, no, not forms. Sorry, I'm going back to forms. Customer voice. So let's go into the bootcamp and let's go into the send customizations. And so we have a personalization in customer voice, which make it possible for us to connect a form submission to a list item in SharePoint. So basically, I need to track the submission of the supplier to to whatever suppliers in the list. So what I did was I generating a unique width for each of the supplier in the list, and that value is then added into the form, and then I use that to track whichever submission I have. That's the first thing. The second thing is the distribution settings, where you can, for example, have the save progress. As far as I can remember, I don't think that is an option in forms. I might making a mistake, but I think that is another response. So that is a very a big difference. So the data is saved up to 28 days. And for large forms, this is very valuable because you really don't want the users to, you know, because I've done this before as a supplier, and it's really time consuming. You know, you have to prepare all the document and you have to try to do it in one sitting, and then your internet broke and then you have to start again. Really time consuming. And of course, there is other, you can create other solutions to do this, you know, partly save and all that, but here you have it out of the box. And then I think those two are the most important things. And of course, you have a more, I personally think there is a more, you can have skip logic and display logic, and you can have, you know, yeah, so here I have a show logic, and you can use questions to validate, and you know there's a lot more, a couple of more features than what we have in forms. So and basically we didn't want to create all of this in Power Apps because this is actually a little bit more easier to do in Customer Voice. Now, let me show you guys how the workflow look like in the backend. All right, so I have a solution here, the bootcamp solution. I have, in this scenario for the demo purposes, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, well, 5 workflows. So the first workflow is called new supply request. I just remember that I should have named them like 01, 02, 03. Okay, so this first one is simple, is connect to the Microsoft Forms and just creates an item in that SharePoint list that I connected to. So if you have, you know, the premium licenses to Microsoft Power Apps, and then you can just create a database. You know, you can just create a Power Apps, or you can just create a model-driven app. It doesn't matter. It's just a way to collect this data. And if you don't have any of that, and you can use forms. If you don't have forms, but are required to use like other things, like you know, any other third-party solution system, whatever, then just use it. The thing is, I just need to make sure that the data submitted is saved somewhere you can work with. So in this case, I save everything into a SharePoint list to work with. So that is a very, very simple solution there. And the next flow is the one called supply chain approval. This flow here starts whenever a new supply has been submitted and need to be, you know, evaluated. So this is the one. So when an item is created, we will then update the item with, I think this is where I update the item with the with. No, this is with the statuses, by the way. Yep, with the statuses. And then we wait for approval, and if there is approval, and then we will create the invitation, the customer voice invitation containing the link to the form, and then we will send the email. So this is where you can define whatever content, whatever information you need in your email. This is in this step, right? And then that will be sent out, and then we will update the item with a new status. The next one will then be submission updates. So that is where we wait for the customer voice submission. So whenever someone submits to the form, and that is where we connect to Dataverse to see if there has been any submissions. And if there is a submission, we will then validate the submission against the width that we had in the list, right? I basically don't like the new designer yet, so I will switch back to the old designer. So this is where I evaluate the where is what happened to my oh yeah, I get everything, and then I will, yep, this is where I will evaluate the source. And then I populate the word template here. Get question text, question answers, populate the word template. And the word template look like this. It's pretty cool because I had a big challenge figure out how to do this. I don't remember from which blog post I found a solution, which will credit the author. But the trick was to create a dynamic section in the word template. Because, you know, it depends on, as I mentioned, it depends on the forms. So the number of questions, the number of responses will vary, right? So you really can't update this template every time you change a question in customer voice. That will be like, it will take forever. So there's the tricks is to create one repeating table, and then add the component you need for a question and for the response, and then in Power Automate just populate the word, the template with that information. So I don't remember from which blog post I found the solution, but thank you so much for that. That helps a lot. So yeah, we just add that to the repeating control, and it will automatically make sure all the question and answers automatically be populated based on how many questions you have and how many responses they have. So that is actually pretty cool. Now, there is another step. So when that is okay, and the submission is arrived, I will send out the DocuSign request. So this is a flow that's connected to DocuSign. And I'm not trying to, sell DocuSign or anything. It's just that they have a developer tenant, and it was pretty easy to connect to. So in this case, you create the envelope, you add the recipient sign, you add the document to that, and then you send it out. It's really straightforward. And of course, when the signature is signed, you will need another action to get the signed document if you want to save the document to the same folder as the rest. So I will save, of course, you will need that. And this is failed, this is worked. So I have some bug with that. I think it's some bug with the developer tenant or something like that. So you would check the envelope, make sure is the ID matches the ID of the supplier. So for each signature you request, there will be a different envelope ID, and you will match it. And then that is to make sure that we're saving the signatures to the right folder, basically. And then, yeah, you get the documents, create the files in here. So if it's correct, you will get the document, create the file, and update the list with the correct information of this. Yeah, and then there you go. Now, is there any other questions so far? Yeah, the old designer is better. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, of course you can, the reason I'm using this is because I personally think that when we work with complex scenarios in Power Automate, if you can separate different steps, you should do it, because it's so much easier to troubleshoot at a later time, and it's consuming less resources. So that's the reason why I'm splitting them up. And And that is not, you know, have to do or must do. It's just like personal preferences. I think that is, it just makes things easier for me to troubleshoot. So that's why actually. So that is for that. Hope that helps. Yep. So that is a good question from Asma there about how to upload file from Microsoft Forms. There's not a solution. So back in the days, I say back in the days, like 2 years ago, just 2 years ago. So basically, what happened was that for customer voice, there was an option to allow external anonymous users to upload files. So when you choose a file, you can have a file upload option here. So this is the same as in Forms, but in Forms, it was not possible to allow external users. But in customer voice, there was work going on to allow this. And they basically, they were almost completed with the feature, and they were supposed to roll it out. So when I work with this project, I asked the project team to enable this for some of my clients, and they did it as what we call it as early adopter preview. So we were like early adopter preview to adopt this option here, and it worked actually perfectly. It worked pretty well. And then last year I had the I had almost the same session here in the Baltic community, and I asked the product group again, where is that feature for anonymous users? And they was telling me that they had retracted this feature, so it's not. I don't know why it is some technical or something like that, but it's not available and it's not possible to add a file upload for anonymous users, not in Forms, not in customer voice. So I hopefully, if enough users or customers request this, maybe they will work on it again. So there was some issue with this feature that we don't know about. I don't know about it, but that was really a letdown. So what I did was when I got the message from the product team, that's when I go back into my drawing board and say, how do I make sure that I can provide, a link, an upload to the end user. So that's where so that's when I landed with the SharePoint file upload feature. That's basically forced me to do this. And the file upload feature is actually enabled and it's working, but is not part of a standard Power Automate action, and it's different from the the sharing link. When you can share anonymous users, it's two different things. So let me show you the flow. So when we do the supply chain here, what I did was that there is a trick to this. So basically, when we enable the file request feature, there is an API call that is sent to SharePoint. So what I did was that I traced the API call using, let me show you that. That was pretty cool, actually. So whenever you can go into developer tool here. So this is actually the only coding thing that is, well, it's not actually coding, it's just something fun. So you have a folder here. When you do the, request files, what happens in the network is that you can trace the process, right? And then you will get the data that is required to successfully create this request link in the network trace. And using that, you can in your workflow, you can then do send the same data. So I'm just sending a request to SharePoint using the same API call. Basically, this is the list ID, and you can you can have a parameter or variable for this, of course. And then this is the ID of the item or the folder. And then the request body is like this. This is basically the same as what you will see here. So this is the the payload. So this is the request body. Let's see, view the source. Let me see this. Yeah, so this is the API call that you need to do. Is called here, right? And you need to define the A1 is the list, and the A2 is the ID of the item. And then if the metadata that you need to send, and the response you will get is basically the URL of the URL of the folder that you need to. This is the URL that you need to get back, right? And well, it works. So basically, what should I say? It was is not perfect. I would love it to be in customer voice, because that will make it very, very easier, because sometimes you need people to upload here. Please upload your certificate here, upload your financial data here, upload your you can define different kind of paths to wherever people can upload which files, so it will make much easier. But the situation is that we basically don't have it, so it's a shame, basically. So I hope that the product group will turn around and create a solution for that soon.